This window frame was built the exact same way that the rough opening framing members were built. This is just a lamination glued up to the shape that we wanted. This rectangle represents the window frame. And the next pieces we have to make are the stop molding. Their function is to hold the window inside of the window frame. After that, we have to make the molding that goes on the outside of the window frame on the building. Here's the stop molding that's going to hold the window inside of the window frame, and it's made exactly the same way we made all the other parts, glued up from multiple laminations. The next process with this is we're going to shape it smooth and then use router bit to form it the way we want it to look for the outside. Here's the stop molding. One surface has been plain flat. The other surface still has the uneven edges from the glue up. We're going to use the table saw. We'll hold this flat surface against the fence, and we'll use the saw blade to cut this surface flat and parallel to our flat surface. The stop molding is pinned to the frame as best as I can get it, so I'm just going to put a temporary mark in here. And I'm using the joint on the top of the frame as a reference. And again, this is going to be a very rough cut. Here's the window frame. What's been installed on it is the outside stop molding. And what the function of this outside stop molding is to hold the window sash in place. You can see this brace here, that's just a temporary brace that's holding this from spreading apart while it's not installed in the wall. Kind of acts like that window sash, and you can see where it butts up against it there. You also have the exact same kind of stop molding on the inside, but that goes on after you install the window sash. The next thing we need is the outside molding. And we have our window frame. We're using that to take our pattern from. Use a standard compass. You trace around the window. In the straight areas, you can just put a mark. Then you use a straight edge here to get that. In the curved areas, you follow the curve with the compass. This gives us the outside profile for the molding. We want our molding to stick back over on the window frame. So we were approximately at 1 1/4 inches. We want it to go on the window frame 7/8. So that means our molding is going to be 2 1/8 of an inch wide. Now I'll carefully ride down the line that I already marked out, and that'll give us the profile for our piece of mold. When you're doing this, you kind of have to imagine that you're perpendicular to the surface, the curve. And it sounds confusing. It'll make a lot of sense if you try it. Because if you get at an angle other than 90 degrees from the edge of this outside curve, you get a smaller dimension on the molding. So you want to imagine this is going to be as wide as possible as you're going down. And you follow me. And you only need one piece for the template because everything's been the same. You'll be able to cut and flip it over. I'll cut this out of the cardboard, transfer it onto a piece of plywood, and we'll use that to make the molding. Once you cut the cardboard pattern out, you want to put it on the window and make sure that everything lines up. The next step is to create an exact plywood pattern of this that you're going to use to cut out the molding. As usual, I don't have one single piece of plywood that I can cut this out of, so I'll cut it out of 2 pieces that are this size, and I'll join them together. You had to make a 2-piece plywood pattern, so that's what we're working with. And this, I want to show you exactly how I join this. Apply your glue to one side. Install one pocket screw. Now here's the cool part. Screw it right to the bench. One piece. Put your pattern on there and you're going to see a huge error. Well, this one just happened to line up perfect. But we're just going to go ahead like there was some big correction that needed to be made. Let's say you needed to pry the 2 pieces. This piece put your screw in to hold it in place. Now you'll install this screw. Don't screw it over, don't go crazy and make it too tight. And then you can still have your piece now. We've got our exact molding template. Remove it from the bench. And we're going to see how it looks on our. From this pattern, we're going to make the actual pieces of molding. Here's our plywood template for the molding, and we need to start constructing actual piece of molding. So we'll use this to mark out. We'll go along, and we'll probably have 3 sections. There'll probably be a section that goes this far, and then 2 smaller sections that split up this direction. Using our pattern, we laid out the pieces that we need to make the rough blank for the window molding. It was supposed to be 3 pieces, but that changed to 2, which is not unusual in work like this. I mean, if something comes along that works better, go ahead and take that, and that's what happened here. This is our pattern. This is our blank below it. I'm going to surface everything so it's parallel and 1 1/4 inches thick, and then we'll make our rough blank. Okay, here's the pieces for the blank that's going to turn into the molding, and I'm in the process of tenon-ing them together. So, and you could also, this is some kind of rabbet joint or something, but it's basically a tongue and groove. And you can see here that it'll almost go together. That's too tight. You could take a hammer and knock these 2 together, but there's not going to be any room for glue. And you're also going to get a swelling right here, and that's not going to be useful in the next step when we're trying to make this into a usable molding. So what I'll do is cut it again. While this is going on, you have the saw unplugged because your hands are right up next to the blade. So I want to take just a little bit more off. So what I'll do is I'll position it right next to the sawtooth and then adjust it. And the way I do this is I'll bump it into the sawtooth, and once I notice that it's leaving a small nick on the wood, because this is a softwood. If it's hardwood, I would do it different. I'd look for the tooth to flex a little bit. You want to continue. And the thing is, the attitude is not to take too much, because you can always cut it again. Okay, we're going to try that right there. blanks are all done for the molding, and we have them just laying on the window frame at this point. What I'd like to show you is what we're going to have to do here. And if you can see in this blank, this is the profile that I want to create. And because of the curves, it becomes a lot more complicated than just putting it on a router table and cutting everything out. Here's the completed window frame with the outside trim attached. The next step is going to be to paint it with 2 coats of paint, make sure all the nail holes are filled, and install it in the building.